guys, I hope you're having a good day. It is now the day after that I made the first two videos on this eggshell solution, and I am now ready to actually mix it up and put it on my plants. And I figured I would show you that part too, since we had a lot of the chatty part on the first two. First off, I just did a pH test, and I just want to show these just for kicks and giggles. So here is, this pH strip is from our well water. So this is just our water, and it's about at a 6.5 here. Then next we have our rainwater, which is what I use for most of our plants. And it's about between a 5.5 and a 6. It's kind of hard to tell. And then, actually, let me look at this. No, it's more between a 5 and a 5.5. Our rainwater is a little bit on the acidic side here. Not really, it's not acidic, but for water, which we tend to think of as basic. And this is sitting right at about a 6. This is the eggshell solution that I dipped. I'm just going to do another one really quick here. And so this was vinegar and eggshells, added to eggshells, which then breaks down, the acid breaks down because of the calcium carbonate, and it becomes neutral or close to neutral usually is what we want. Yep, I'd say it's between a 6 and a 6.5. So on these strips, I believe that is quite neutral. I expected it to be a little bit acidic still, which is fine. The rain is a little bit acidic, and you can even use diluted apple cider vinegar, etc., to help improve your soil in certain situations if the pH is what's off. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this, like I said, this is just, I feel kind of bad because it's a pretty messy, not real clean idea of how to do this, but it's not my normal way, I should say, but because I am not feeling really great and couldn't find my coffee grinder, it's the way we're going to do it today. So ideally, this would be all ground up really fine. It would have set with the vinegar overnight, and it would be in a really soluble format, but still this is going to have enough broken down that my plants are going to get a good little dose, and then the rest of this eggshell is going to slowly break down over time, like we talked about in the other videos, and release more calcium to the plants. All right, I will be right back. I'm going to grab my Epsom salts, and we're going to mix up a tonic for these babies. Alrighty, I'm going to prepare it a little bit differently today since I wasn't able to grind them up. I am going to actually kind of make a slurry with this now that it's all done. So what I'm going to do is take this eggshell mixture and vinegar mixture and plop it in this little blender. Since I have to mix up the Epsom salts and dissolve it anyways, I'm going to just go ahead and blend it all up a bit. Now I'm just getting some warm water to rinse out this little bowl that had all the eggshells in to get all the goodies out of it. Let me lift this up just a bit more. There we go. So we got that with a little bit of water in the blender here. Now I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons for this particular mixture. Usually I would add a little bit more, but I'm gonna do these guys. I would like to give them a dose and see how they do, and then give them a little more. I don't want to overload these guys while they're stressed. All right, now I'm going to add water just up to about this line here. It's not to be exact, it's gonna be about 2 cups, and I'm gonna blend it up really well, and I will be back. Alrighty, we are back, and it's all blended up together. The magnesium, the Epsom salts has dissolved well. Now I am going to add one more thing to this that I don't necessarily, it's not what you do for a calcium solution per se, but then again, adding the Epsom salts isn't really either. You can just use this completely plain if you want. You can take your egg shell and vinegar solution and dilute it You don't even have to dilute it that much. I usually put it for a couple tablespoons like we did, you know, in a tablespoon of vinegar, in a quart or two of water. There was only about 4 eggshells that I had. And so in a quart of water is just fine, and use that as a solution to water with. But since these plants are having some issues, it's not just a normal, you know, watering or, hey, I'll just up their calcium a little bit. I'm going to add the magnesium in because that's often a nutrient that gets deficient as well. And then on top of that, I am just going to add, I usually would add powdered kelp, but for whatever reason, I can't find my open bag and I don't want to open a new bag. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this liquid seaweed fertilizer instead. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of this in this solution, and then this is eventually going to get diluted in about 1.5 quarts of water. If anyone wonders. Oops. I lost my measuring spoons. Oh, here they are. In my magnesium bag. And I shook this up. You can use other stuff in combination with this also. You can use a fish fertilizer, but I don't typically use fish fertilizers on indoor plants. I love them on outdoor plants, but on indoor plants, seaweed is about as close to fish as I can get with my nose. Our whole house will reek and no one else smells it but me. I watered one plant and I was just like, a long time ago with a very weak fish solution, but it was no bueno. So I don't do that anymore. I'm going to grab a different jar here. And I did use hot water or warm water to blend this up. It just helps everything dissolve faster. So you'll want to dump it into a larger container, and then if you had it in a blender or another container, there's going to be a lot of eggshells in the bottom here. So that's why I didn't add all the water at first, because you kind of need to be able to add more as you're rinsing out all of these goodies. Now, obviously, the eggshells are going to settle to the bottom of this container as well. So I just water everything normally and don't worry about what's in the bottom. And then once we get to the bottom, I'll divide up the eggshells that are in the bottom. Sorry, this vinegar jug is kind of in our way here, isn't it? I'll just scoop the eggshells out of the bottom with a spoon and gently mix them into the soil around the base of the plant. I didn't mention in the other video, which I should have, I didn't mention that one of the reasons that we cook the eggshells before blending them up, you don't have to do that, especially if it's outdoors, but one of the advantages, aside from just drying it out and potentially making the calcium more available to the plants, one of the other reasons that we may do that is because it kills off any nasty bacteria like salmonella and other yucky things that can actually be absorbed by your plants. Not that salmonella will really hurt them, but you just don't want that around your house. You don't want to be potentially infecting yourself when you're repotting something, etc. And the soil can provide the needed microorganisms for salmonella to stay alive and grow. So that's another reason to bake your eggshells, especially if they're store-bought eggshells and could potentially be contaminated. The ones we use are from my brother-in-law right across the street, and they have chickens. We don't have any chickens or ducks right now, but so they're pretty, I'm not super worried about salmonella with those, but it's just a good thing to do anyways, to dry them out and help all that. All right, I'm just gonna, that's about where I'm gonna end on this dilution. I'm gonna take this solution here, and actually I'll just grab them and water them both now. I've been letting both of these dry out a little bit so that they were good and ready to soak up some yummy nutrients, but they're not bone dry. It's easy to burn plants. If you're adding other fertilizers, be careful if you're dealing with sick plants and you're adding like a full-on fertilizer to this. I would not do that at this time. It's too easy to burn these guys when they're already stressed with extra fertilizer, and hopefully I'll make another video about that eventually, because I don't want to get into all of that right now. But so then I'm just gonna water them. And I have a couple other plants that aren't like showing major signs of deficiency, but something's up, and so I wanted a little bit extra of this to water those guys with too. Now, if you were watering a normal, more desert-loving succulent, you wouldn't be putting this much on them. And if you're watering a species that really likes dry conditions, you might really want to do a foliar spray instead of a root solution. That way you don't have to drench the soil quite as much. You can get a lot of it in foliarly. But, okay, so that's all. I'm going to water these guys. I'm going to go water a few others with the rest of this. And then, like I said, I'm just going to scoop these eggshells and mix them into the soil, the topsoil of these extra deficient plants, so that they have some that will slowly break down over time as well, kind of like a little bit of an extended release. And I'm not going to show all of that because the video will get way too long again, but that's kind of how you do it. If you want a more simple formula, just take about a tablespoon of crushed or ground eggshells, add a tablespoon of vinegar to that, let it set overnight or a day or so, and then dilute that tablespoon of vinegar and tablespoon of egg mixture in a quart or more. You can always dilute more, it never hurts. But about a quart of water is what I do when I'm watering something that's extremely deficient. I'm not, if you guys, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not super great at like recipes and measuring things. Like I almost never measure myself. I measure just enough so that I know the ratios are right, but not exact, or like writing down, oh, this is my recipe for that. And I'm the same way with cooking. I love to cook, and but people are like, oh, what's your recipe? I'm like, it was an accident. But I'm trying to get a little more exact, and hopefully this will help those of you who are like, great, that's awesome, but what are the proportions? Because I know how that feels, and it's frustrating when someone's just like, this works great for your plants, but doesn't give you all the details. So hopefully that's enough details to get you guys going on this if some of your plants are deficient. I think with this peperomia, I'm going to do a foliar spray as well on it because it's just really struggling, but I will have to accumulate some more eggshells because I'm out. So we'll have to wait for that. Anyways, that's it for today. If you would like to see part 1 and 2 of this, I will go ahead and post those in the comment or the link description box. Blah, I'll get it right in a minute. I will post the links to those two in the description box below so that you can see where I discuss deficiencies and what they often look like in plants, and how to make the solution, etc. But this is how to dilute it up and use it. All right, I hope you're having a fantastic day and happy growing.